Joseph's brothers finally get back to their father and give him the great news. They tell Jacob that they found Joseph. Joseph's fine. He's good. Not only is he good, he's doing amazing. He's a ruler. He's supplying food for the whole world. And he's invited us to come down. Now, if we look at the terminology in the Torah, it doesn't seem like Jacob was buying this story until, and I'll quote, until he saw something. The verse, we're in chapter 45, verse 27 says, Vaydaberu elav et kol divrei Yosef. His brothers tell Jacob everything that happened with Joseph. Asher diber alehem, which he told them. Vayar et ha'agalot, and then he sees the 10 carriages of food and bread and wine that Jacob sent to his father through and with his brothers. When he saw those, then Asher shalach Yosef, that Joseph sent, laset oto, to bring Jacob to Egypt, vatihi ruach Yaakov avihem, and then Jacob feel like he was alive again. The commentaries say, only then, when he saw those carriages which brought food and were to transport him back to Egypt, to his son, only at that moment did he get his divine inspiration back, his Ruach HaKodesh, and as well, only then did he really believe that Joseph was alive. Yes, we know his granddaughter Serach Bat Esher was singing a song, Joseph is alive, and she was singing it. And Jacob was hearing it, but subconsciously not really understanding what was going. Then the brothers broke the news. He didn't believe them until he saw those carriages. Now, Rashi tells us, you know what Jacob's intention by sending those carriages were? His intention was that he can give a sign to his father that it's really him and that he is really still righteous as when he left, because that was the last topic they were learning about. Oh, really? What was the last topic? The last topic he was learning about with his father was the topic of Egla Arufa. Egla Arufa means the slaughtered calf, which was slaughtered to the unfortunate circumstance of when somebody was found dead. A dead body was found on the outskirts of the city, in between two cities, the border of a city. It was calculated which city is this carcass closest to, and that city was held accountable for not being hospitable enough to that person, either not welcoming him in or not escorting them out. To where the Mishnah in Masechet Sotah tells us that the elders and the sages of the city would get together and they would repent and lament over the fact that a traveler, a guest, was not hosted or taken care of properly. But the Gemara says one more thing. The Gemara says that any person who is escorted on their way out, on the way while they're traveling, that person who is escorted by the others is not going to be harmed during that journey. So that means if Reuben comes to the city where Shimon lives, and then when Reuben is on his way and he leaves after his stay, Shimon walks him out and escorts him, that means Reuben, who is being escorted out, is going to be protected and no harm will find his way while he travels now. It's a beautiful thing. But listen to the following. What was Joseph sending as a message to his father? The Zera Shimshon says, Joseph told his father, Abba, I know you escorted me 22 years ago when you sent me to go look for my brothers. I mean, Jacob must have known that halakha, the Zera Shimshon says, so Jacob must have fulfilled it. You escorted me, and because of that, the Talmud says I should not have been harmed. But I was. Why is that? The Talmud elsewhere in Masechet Berachot tells us that God sends towards righteous people and people that He loves Yisurin shel ahava, affliction and suffering out of love, just to make them grow. It's tough love, as we like to say it. And Joseph said, Abba, you might think, how could God have done this to me? I escorted my son, and he only found harm's way. An animal must have eaten him. And I was taken away from you at such a young age, at 17. Don't look at it that way, because I don't look at it that way. Yes, I had a difficult time. I was sold as a slave. I was in jail for 12 years. I had to prove myself to Pharaoh and to the Egyptian people. But I did it. I don't look at all that as harm. I look at it as growth. I look at it as a challenge, an opportunity for growth. It was suffering and affliction out of love for God, the God that loves me, Joseph says. And it's for the good. So don't question, how is it that I ended up almost like a dead carcass after you escorted me? I'm not. I had a bump, I had a hard time, but that made me to be the viceroy, the ruler that I am today. Joseph tells his father. So don't question it. And I am still as righteous as I was when we left. Because number one, I remember our last lesson. And number two, I'm living it. What does that mean, I'm living it? I'm living it to the point where my belief and trust in God is unshakable. It's unwavering. I'm not only as good as before, I'm stronger than before. That was one of Jacob's concerns. The first thing he thought of when he heard that his son is alive in Egypt, in a place of impurity, a very low, immoral place, he wondered, how is my son? Joseph said from the get-go, I am as righteous, if not more righteous than before, because I lived by everything you taught me. And these wagons, the word agalot, wagons, is very similar to the word egla arufa, that sacrifice which is brought by the elders when they find that dead carcass. So Joseph was telling his father, I remember that lesson. I'm living that lesson. God made no mistake. I had no harm done to me because you escorted me like the halakha says you should. That was only room for growth and opportunity through a little bit of hurdle and tough love that God was giving me. There is a halakha that when we depart from a person, we're supposed to escort them. Meaning if someone invites you to their home, the right thing to do is see them to the door, if not a little further. Take a couple steps forward, out with them. It's a nice thing. It's a thing which protects that person. If you care about who you host, who your guests are, that's the right thing to do. But taking it to the next level of sharing with them some wisdom, some divine wisdom, something from Torah. When they go, that's what they're going to think about on their travel. And you can elevate that. And how great can it be if we can transmit that to our children? That our children see us escorting our guests. Our children see us imparting others when we separate from them with wisdom, with godliness, with morals, and with ethics. That's a beautiful thing. Jacob could now, at this moment, say to himself, I was really successful. I really taught my son a lesson. After 22 years of him not being with me, I guess my first 17 years of investment paid off. Not only is he fulfilling, he's teaching me a lesson. Jacob can say to himself, I had my own doubts. I escorted him, there should have been no harm. Joseph is telling him, Abba, this is not called harm. This is called blessing. This is called growth. Look where I am today. I'm in a position that I'm able to help our family in their time of need. May God bless us that He will always give us the wisdom, the courage, and the know-how to impart those so important and everlasting messages onto our children by treating guests right, escorting them for their own good to keep them out of harm's way, And as well as if we can upgrade that to the level of imparting our children with divrei Torah, words of wisdom, words of Torah, and letting them go on and share that, whatever they learn at school, what they learn at home, what we teach them. If our children could go around saying beautiful things about humanity, about interpersonal relationships, about the stories in our Torah and our Talmud, how proud parents and grandparents we can be, knowing that we were able to lead by example and have our children follow in our ways.